The story begins with an eagle soaring over the plains of the western United States of America. A free eagle gliding between the hills and flapping its wings above the water, flying freely across the vast wide region filled with all kinds of wildlife. Herds of different animals living in the forests and near waterfalls and even in the ice, living in the wilderness with freedom and peace. And among these animals, the Mustang horses. Free wild steeds moving across the wilderness however they want. Powerful horses enjoying great speed and high agility, running together within the herd to enjoy the gentle wind. In one of the green plains, there was a wild mare with a beautiful color lying on the ground and suffering, because she was about to give birth. And she kept struggling and crying from the pains of labor while the rest of the herd beside her were hearing the sound of her cries, until a small foal finally comes out. So the rest of the herd celebrates the newborn spirit, and at that moment the mother looks at her son's spirit, finding him a beautiful yellow foal, still discovering the world and getting to know his mother who was very happy with him and playing with him, while the rest of the herd were all happy with the new member. So the mother rises from the ground and spirit tries to take his first steps, so he can learn how to walk but he falls. Then he tries again and succeeds in reaching his mother, and he becomes very happy. Time passes and spirit grows and becomes a naughty foal, running very fast above an icy hill while the rest of the herd are also running below. And because he is mischievous he rushes down from the hill at maximum speed, and throws snow onto the horses while he runs. Then the herd stops in a frozen place where the ice is melting, beneath frozen trees, and spirit tries to drink from the melting ice, and he continues his mischief and runs toward an icy cone and licks it, so his tongue sticks to the ice, and to catch the herd he breaks the cone and walks with it inside his mouth. And his mother laughs and feels surprised by his mischief. Then he goes to play in the river with small foals like him, and drinks from the water. And at that moment they feel an earth tremor, so they become frightened and move away, except Spirit who remains standing in his place. And when he looks behind him he finds a huge herd of bison, so one of the bison jokes with him and blows air into his face, and Spirit becomes happy and approaches the bison while he is excited. Then he returns to his mother so they continue their journey, and he waves goodbye to the bison. Days pass and Spirit grows and becomes a large horse, a wild reckless horse, powerful and extremely fast, able to compete with the eagle. And the two of them race in a speed contest and Spirit gives all his effort to surpass it. And indeed he succeeds in overtaking it, and reaches the top of the hill before it. And because Spirit has grown, he becomes the leader of the herd exactly like his father. And his responsibility becomes protecting the herd. And at that moment Spirit notices a predatory cougar sneaking toward the herd. And there were small horses in front of it. And at full speed the cougar attacks them. So the small horses run away but one of them falls. And the cougar was about to devour it. And in that moment Spirit arrives and stands before it protecting the small horses. So the cougar becomes aggressive and attacks him but Spirit manages to dodge it. And Spirit keeps attacking it until he manages to jump onto its back. So Spirit moves right and left at great speed to make it lose balance, until he manages to throw it onto the ground, and at that moment Spirit stands before it while it is lying on the ground, and he was about to kick it and finish it, but Spirit only frightens it and lets it escape from the place. At that moment the entire herd of horses gathers around Spirit, while they are happy with him. Especially his mother who feels that he has become a strong leader who can be relied upon. Even the small horses were grateful to him. And happiness spreads through the entire herd after the defeat of the cougar. The situation continues as it is. Spirit, a wild horse who has become responsible for the herd, and they all live together in the green plains happily, and in harmony with Spirit among them, as their new leader responsible for protecting them, and who walks among them to check on them. And when he finds the small horses hitting each other, he looks at them with the authority of the leader. So they stop fighting and go to sleep. And then he goes to his mother who was very happy with him. And he climbs the hill and looks at the stars and meteors, while he feels happy with his free life in the wilderness. At that moment he looks ahead and finds a distant flame of fire, a strange sight he has never seen before. So it awakens his curiosity and he wonders what that thing there could be. So he calls his mother to come and see what it is, and the two of them stand there amazed by the sight they are seeing. So Spirit decides that he will go there to explore the place, but his mother grabs his mane to stop him. No one knows what could be there. But Spirit reassures her that the matter is simple, and that she should not worry, and he runs quickly toward the flame to discover what is there. When he finally arrives there he finds a group of horses tied up, and the horses immediately signal to him to run away before the humans see him and capture him. But Spirit approaches them and discovers that they are tied to the trunk of a tree, and even though they try to warn him Spirit does not care. and he runs toward the human camp to explore what they are doing. And he finds a group of humans sleeping around the fire, and they look like a group of soldiers resting, and curiosity takes Spirit even further and makes him approach their tools and examine them. And he places his head inside a soldier's boot, but its disgusting smell makes him throw it away, and it lands on the head of one of the soldiers, waking him up. So the soldier wakes his companion, and tells him, "Look at that horse. That is a very beautiful horse," while Spirit was still exploring the place and not paying attention. And the soldiers behind him quietly approach while holding ropes to capture him, and the tied horses try to warn him, but Spirit is busy exploring and not paying attention. And suddenly one of the soldiers wakes up from sleep and becomes terrified when he sees Spirit and screams loudly. So Spirit also becomes frightened and tries to escape, but the soldiers gather around him trying to capture him. So Spirit frightens them and runs away at high speed. But the soldiers prepare to chase him, and they mount their horses and run after him trying to catch him. And they keep chasing him until they think he disappeared. But it turns out that Spirit was hiding behind a rock, and even though Spirit had already escaped from them, he decides to run after the soldiers to rescue the horses with them. And indeed he comes from behind one of the horses and grabs the soldier with his mouth, pulling him down to the ground. And he frees the horse, and Spirit becomes very happy and continues running toward two other soldiers, and passes between them, causing them to lose their balance. And Spirit runs with all his speed across the green plains, and because he is extremely fast he manages to outrun them. And when he looks behind him he finds no one there, so he becomes happy and keeps running to return to his herd joyfully. And indeed he reaches his herd and looks at them from the top of the hill. And the entire herd is happy with his return. But at that moment, Spirit hears the sounds of humans. So he looks behind him and finds them coming at full speed toward him to capture him. So Spirit becomes afraid for his herd, because they will be caught like that. So he neighs loudly to warn them. But the herd does not understand anything, and they remain standing in their places. And Spirit looks behind him and finds that the riders have already come close to them. So he screams at them to run away, and indeed the herd begins to flee. And Spirit runs toward the soldiers to draw them away from his herd. And when the soldiers see him running toward them they stop in their places, while they are surprised. So Spirit pushes them and passes between them, and makes them chase him in the opposite direction to protect his herd. And the riders become determined in chasing him, and Spirit runs at full speed while the soldiers are almost about to catch him. Until Spirit reaches a blocked area, and the soldiers are happy that they will finally catch him. But suddenly Spirit climbs onto the wall and jumps over them, knocking one of the soldiers down and escaping in the opposite direction. And he runs at full speed while feeling happy and excited, and Spirit continues escaping until suddenly he is pulled from his neck by a rope, and he falls to the ground while being held by the rope by one of the soldiers. At that moment Spirit becomes very angry and tries to attack the soldier, but suddenly another soldier grabs him from behind, so he tries to break free, but they grab him again by his legs, and they all gather around him while he tries to escape from them, until he falls to the ground and the soldiers overpower him. And at that moment his herd sees him from the top of the hill, so his mother becomes afraid for him, and tries to go down to save him, but as soon as Spirit sees her he neighs loudly at her so she will not come. And the mother stands there sadly wanting to rescue him, and Spirit keeps neighing at her to stop her, and in the end the mother returns to the herd and they escape. Spirit remains lying on the ground frightened, not knowing what will happen to him. Even the soldiers' horses themselves feel sad for Spirit. After that the soldiers move and drag Spirit behind them, and Spirit is stubborn, and does not want to walk with them, and he resists with all his strength. But the soldiers continue walking and Spirit keeps resisting and refuses to move. And the soldiers pull him harshly so he cannot escape, and Spirit stands sadly about his situation, and even sadder when he sees his friend the free eagle flying in the vast sky, while he is restrained from movement, unable to escape, and unable to know what awaits him. After traveling for a very long distance, the soldiers finally reach their camp, and they drag Spirit inside while he resists with all his strength. And when he enters the camp he becomes surprised by the sight he sees: soldiers everywhere, and other soldiers training horses as cavalry weapons, and they keep dragging Spirit until he sees the cavalry horses, and he wonders why these horses are with humans, and why they are not free like him. So he becomes very angry because he does not want to become like them. But suddenly he stops moving when he hears the sound of the commander's gunshot, to stop Spirit from the chaos he is causing. And then he asks the soldiers what the problem with this horse is, and they tell him that this is a crazy stallion from the original Mustang breed. So the commander dismounts from his horse and walks towards Spirit, and he tells them not to worry because the army has succeeded in taming wild horses before. And this horse will not be different from them. But Spirit becomes very angry with him and breaks his stick. But the commander does not get upset and insists on taming him. And Spirit is furious with this commander and wants to escape from his control. But the soldiers drag Spirit and tie him to the wood. At that moment the blacksmith enters while holding scissors and tries to cut his mane. But Spirit bites him. So the blacksmith takes the matter personally and ties his mouth, and returns to cutting his hair. But during the cutting Spirit pushes his body onto the blacksmith's fingers, and traps them hard against the wood. So the blacksmith feels pain and falls to the ground. The blacksmith becomes more annoyed and orders the soldiers to tie Spirit's body with rope. Then he takes a dagger and goes towards Spirit's hoof and begins trimming it. But suddenly Spirit kicks him with his leg. The blacksmith returns again and orders the soldiers to tie his leg, and continues trimming his hooves. But Spirit kicks him in the face with his leg again. And at that moment the soldiers' horses, watching the scene, laugh and feel happy with Spirit's courage. The blacksmith stands up from the ground very angry, and taking the matter personally with Spirit, and becomes more stubborn with him. So he orders the soldiers to tie all his legs so he cannot move at all. And he goes to the fire and brings a burning iron, with the mark of the United States, to brand it onto Spirit. But suddenly Spirit moves right and left very quickly until he frees his head and headbutts the blacksmith. The blacksmith remains lying on the ground while the other horses are happy with what happened. So when the soldiers realize that Spirit is a very stubborn horse, they say they will send him to the stable, because he is not useful for cavalry. But the commander comes to them, and tells them not to send him to the stable, but bring him to the arena so he can be tamed. Indeed, they take him to the arena and all the soldiers gather in the place. And they begin preparing Spirit with the saddle and bridle. And one of the soldiers mounts him. And as soon as the gate opens and Spirit enters the arena, he resists with all his strength and moves right and left to throw the rider off balance. And he keeps spinning around himself until the soldier becomes dizzy and falls to the ground. And the commander behind the arena begins to become angry and annoyed with Spirit. Then another soldier comes and takes the attempt. And as soon as he mounts Spirit, he runs with him violently. And within a few seconds he is thrown to the ground. And not only that, but Spirit looks at him angrily while he is on the ground, and suddenly runs toward him to headbutt him. And the commander behind the fences keeps watching what is happening while he is annoyed. Spirit returns to his place proudly in his walk after what he did to the soldiers. Then a new rider enters to try to tame him, but as soon as he mounts he is thrown away immediately, and the fourth and fifth soldiers are also thrown, and no one can control Spirit. And in the end Spirit runs toward them, while they are behind the fences, knocking them down and frightening them. Except the commander, who is the only one who stands facing Spirit, without fear like the rest of the soldiers. And the two of them keep looking at each other with a challenging stare. So the commander orders one of the soldiers to tie Spirit to the post and deny him food and water for 3 days. Spirit remains tied to the post, unable to free himself. And the soldiers' horses in the stable feel sad for him, and Spirit keeps trying under the intense heat of the sun, but without success. And the night comes while he is still in his place, very sad about what happened to him. And he looks at the stars in the sky, remembering his old life with his herd. Even the herd, especially his mother, were very sad after losing him, and Spirit wishes that he could return to them. On the second day Spirit wakes up thirsty and looks beside him and finds the cavalry commander drinking water, and Spirit wishes to drink, but the commander does not care and feels pleased watching him suffer from thirst. At that moment the soldiers arrive holding one of the Native Americans, whom they consider enemies, and his name is Little Creek, and they take him to the commander, who sits mocking him and orders the soldiers to tie him and deny him food and water. The soldiers drag Little Creek to tie him to a post beside Spirit, and he and Spirit keep looking at each other, until the soldiers finally tie him to the post and leave them and walk away. And he keeps looking at Spirit and joking with him, while Spirit feels confused by him and turns his back so he will not joke with him, and Little Creek keeps laughing loudly. Night comes and Spirit is still tied and unable to escape, and at that moment he hears Little Creek making an owl sound with his mouth, and communicating with someone else who is also making animal sounds with his mouth, until suddenly a knife is thrown to him. So Little Creek stretches his leg to catch the knife before the soldiers gather, and luckily he manages to catch the knife before it is too late. At that moment the soldiers gather in a line, and receive the required missions, and the commander has his eyes on Spirit, and asks them how long it has been. So they tell him it has been 3 days, so he decides that he will try to tame him today. Indeed, he mounts Spirit, and Spirit refuses to be tamed and resists with all his strength, while the commander holds onto him firmly, and Spirit tries to move right and left quickly to throw him off, but the commander holds tightly. So Spirit tries to smash him against the fence several times but without success, so he throws himself onto the ground to drop him, but still without success. And that is because Spirit has become weaker since he has not eaten or drunk for 3 days. At that moment Spirit becomes exhausted and stops, and the horses present feel sad for him. Even Little Creek is also sad, while the commander is extremely happy and boasts in front of the soldiers that he managed to tame Spirit. And then he kicks him with his foot and orders him to move, so Spirit is forced to walk with him while he is almost submissive. And at that moment the commander tells the soldiers that the politicians in Washington think that we will not be able to conquer the West, and that the railroad will never reach Nebraska. And he goes toward Little Creek and continues speaking. They also think that we will not be able to subdue the Native Americans. After that he walks with Spirit around the arena, and the rest of the horses are sad for him, and even Spirit himself cannot believe that he has become like them. But suddenly Spirit stops and decides that he must resist again, so he suddenly grabs the reins and pulls them from the commander's hand. Then he runs quickly with the commander, and makes him lose balance, and hits him against the fence to throw him to the ground. And indeed the commander is about to fall with his face in front of Spirit, so Spirit suddenly headbutts him strongly and throws him outside the arena, and even breaks the fence too. And the soldiers cannot believe what happened to their commander, but Little Creek is very happy with what Spirit did. The soldiers quickly go to the commander to help him stand, but the commander pushes them away from him, and Spirit also stands up, and the two of them stand facing each other. And the commander is extremely angry at Spirit, and at that moment all the horses in the stable make loud noise and chaos in the place, because they are happy with Spirit and his courage. Even Little Creek is also happy and supports him, so the commander orders one of the soldiers to hold Spirit tightly. And he pulls out his gun and aims it towards Spirit, but suddenly Little Creek frees himself with the knife and jumps on the commander, knocking him down. Then he grabs Spirit and the two of them run together, and the soldiers become frightened and move away from them. One of the soldiers tries to hit him with the rifle, but Spirit suddenly runs quickly and Little Creek pulls the rifle from his hand, and Spirit decides to enter the stable to free all the horses, so Little Creek breaks the door with the rifle, and all the horses escape from the stable. And when Spirit reaches it he finds the blacksmith standing in front of him, so he easily kicks him away and escapes from the camp, and the rest of the horses run away behind him. And at that moment Spirit is happy, because he will finally return to the herd after gaining his freedom. And while running he hears Little Creek calling his horse, a beautiful mare named Rain. So Little Creek jumps onto her back and stops in front of Spirit, and two Native Americans come from behind him and capture him with ropes. And after everything he did, unfortunately he loses his freedom again, but this time at the hands of the Native Americans. The Native Americans take him until they reach their tents at night, and they pull Spirit until they reach a new fence, and Spirit enters it with Rain and Little Creek. So Little Creek approaches him calmly, and tells him, "Do not be afraid, I will not harm you." And he removes the bridle from his face to make him comfortable, and leaves him and Rain inside the fence and walks away. On the next day Spirit wakes up and finds a pile of apples placed beside him, so he goes to eat because he has not eaten for a long time. And when he looks ahead he finds Rain outside the fence eating grass, and he seems very impressed by her. And at that moment Little Creek arrives and calls her, so Rain runs toward him happily and plays with him. And Spirit watches them while not understanding why a human is playing with a horse, and they are happy together. And the two of them keep playing while Spirit watches them with confusion. After a while Little Creek enters the fence holding a cloth and wants to ride Spirit, but Spirit as usual is stubborn and keeps running away from him, and does not want any human to come near him. And Little Creek keeps trying while Spirit refuses, until suddenly Spirit runs toward him to attack him. So Little Creek quickly escapes outside the fence while he is frightened. So Rain comes at full speed and defends her owner Little Creek, so Spirit leaves them and turns his face away. After that Little Creek ties Spirit and Rain together hoping that Rain might be able to tame him. And he opens the gate for them so they can go out, and Spirit can hardly believe it. As soon as he sees the gate open he runs at full speed outside to escape, and Rain is dragged with him because they are tied together. But suddenly Rain stops him, because she does not want to leave her owner Little Creek and wants to return back. And Spirit wants to continue forward, and he keeps pulling Rain to go to the herd, so Rain sits on the ground so he cannot escape. Then she stands up and circles around him and trips him with the rope, so Spirit falls to the ground, and she signals to him to return again to the Native Americans. And at that moment Spirit decides to follow her so she can show him her world. The two of them arrive at the Native American tents, and Spirit becomes very surprised by the life of humans, and becomes even more surprised when he sees other horses happy with the Native Americans, while they paint them with colors. After a while Little Creek comes with colors and wants to paint Spirit, but Spirit spills the colors on him, and Spirit sits laughing at him, while Little Creek smiles and does not become angry with him. Then a small girl comes and approaches Spirit to play with him, but Spirit moves away from her and the girl falls and she was about to cry, so Spirit returns to her again so she will not cry. After the girl leaves, he and Rain walk around a little and go to eat some grass, and when Spirit sees apples on the tree he jumps and takes one and eats it with Rain together. After that they play together in the beautiful plains, and even go into the water. Then they come out and stand on the hill enjoying the beautiful wind, and at that moment Spirit notices his friend the eagle flying in the sky, so he neighs to call him, but then he becomes sad again because he misses his freedom and misses his mother, and the herd he lived with all his life, and even Rain also feels his sadness. After that he returns to Little Creek and pulls his cloth and plays with him, and Little Creek keeps running after him to get his cloth, while Spirit runs away from him and plays with him. And when Little Creek becomes tired Spirit goes to him and gives it back, so Little Creek becomes very happy and realizes that Spirit allowed him to ride on his back, and indeed Little Creek takes the cloth and places it on Spirit's back, while he cannot believe that he will finally ride him, and when he tries to climb onto his back Spirit suddenly jumps in the air, and makes Little Creek fall to the ground. And the two of them laugh together. Then Spirit goes to him, and for the first time Little Creek manages to touch Spirit, and they begin to get used to each other, and from afar Rain watches them happily, because Spirit has started to befriend Little Creek, and at that moment Little Creek tells him that he will never ride him, and that no one should ride him. Then he stands up from the ground and opens the gate for Spirit and signals to him to leave, and Spirit cannot believe what he sees and remains standing in his place for a moment. Then he approaches the gate still not believing. So Little Creek pushes him and tells him to go, and indeed Spirit walks away and then stops and looks at Little Creek for the last time and says goodbye, and he jumps into the air happily, because he regained his freedom again, and runs at full speed away from the place to return to his herd, and he keeps running happily until he reaches Rain and signals to her, so they can go together and return to the herd. But suddenly Rain steps back sadly because she does not want to leave her owner Little Creek, so Spirit signals to her again to come quickly. But Rain stands in her place without moving, so Spirit goes to her to say goodbye for the last time before leaving. But at that moment they hear the sounds of soldiers approaching the place, so they run quickly to see what is happening, and they find the soldiers with the commander going to attack the Native Americans. So Rain becomes afraid for her people and runs at full speed toward the tents while Spirit runs behind her. The two of them reach the tents, and the American soldiers are attacking the Native Americans and destroying their tents, and Spirit stands in the middle not understanding what is happening, until he sees Rain with Little Creek riding on her to defend his people. So Spirit runs after them to help them, but suddenly he becomes terrified when he sees Rain running toward the commander who aims a gun at them and fires toward them. So the two of them fall into the river and the current pulls them away, and Little Creek holds onto a rock while the commander aims his gun at him to kill him. So Spirit runs at full speed toward them to save Little Creek, and pushes the commander knocking him to the ground. At full speed he runs along the river trying to catch Rain who is being dragged by the current and cannot stop. And he keeps running beside her until he reaches a rock. So he jumps onto it and dives into the water. And he moves with the current searching for Rain until he finds her ahead. So he moves quickly until he reaches her and lifts her onto his back. And he tries to resist the strong current with all his strength, but he cannot, and the current drags him toward the waterfall, and he keeps struggling in the water, but unfortunately they reach the waterfall and both of them fall down. After that Spirit stands up and leans on a tree trunk to catch his breath, and he looks right and left searching for Rain until he finds her lying on the shore. So he runs to her quickly and finds her extremely exhausted and unable to move, and Spirit stands beside her helpless not knowing how to help her, and feeling very sad for her. So he neighs loudly hoping someone will come and help them. Then he sits beside her on the ground trying to comfort her. He stays beside her until the sun begins to set, and at that moment he hears the soldiers approaching them, so he neighs at them to stay away from her. But the soldiers capture him with ropes and drag him away, and Spirit keeps resisting while he is afraid for Rain and does not want to leave her. Spirit keeps neighing and resisting while Rain also cries, but she cannot move from her place, and Rain collapses on the ground after exhaustion overwhelms her. But from a distance Little Creek was hiding and waiting for the soldiers to leave so he could help Rain, and from afar he sees Spirit leaving with the soldiers and tells him that he saved his life. The soldiers drag Spirit until they reach the railroad, and Spirit walks behind them sadly after everything that happened. So one of the soldiers takes him and pushes him onto the train, and when the horses see him they become happy that he returned. But Spirit is very sad about Rain and stands alone feeling depressed. After that the train begins moving through the snowstorm and Spirit is still sad, and the other horses try to cheer him up but Spirit remains sad, and does not respond to them. The train continues moving through the snowstorm and Spirit stands watching the snow while imagining the herd, and remembering his memories with his mother and the rest of the herd. But unfortunately all of this is only imagination and Spirit is still on the train without his freedom. When the train finally stops someone comes and pulls them out, and Spirit follows him without knowing why they brought them here. At that moment the soldiers were building a new railroad to create a new line connecting the east with the west by train, while Little Creek on the other side was preparing to travel toward the railroad to rescue Spirit. After 6 days had passed the workers had tied many horses to a train wagon to move it, and all the horses move together and begin pulling the wagon so they can bring it to the railway. The horses continue pulling the wagon until they reach a high hill, and below it is the new railway where they are supposed to deliver the wagon. At that moment Spirit sees the beautiful sunset, and from afar he notices his homeland where he used to live, and then he realizes that they are heading toward his home, and he must stop them. So he suddenly stops and steps backwards so the horses will not continue. So the worker lashes them so they keep moving, but at the same time the wagon begins rolling backward while the workers try to stop it. And when Spirit sees this scene an idea comes into his mind, so he throws himself onto the ground, and pretends to be exhausted so they untie him. And indeed the workers untie him, and drag him by his legs to move him away from the path. But at that moment Spirit frees himself and runs at full speed toward the wagon, and he breaks the first chain tying the horses and lets them escape. So the wagon loses balance, and is about to fall from the hill. So he immediately breaks the second chain and frees the rest of the horses. And the wagon is now about to fall from the hill. So the workers gather behind the wagon trying to stop it. And just when Spirit is about to escape one of the workers grabs him with a chain. But Spirit resists and manages to free himself and escape from them. So one of the workers fires his gun at him. But luckily Spirit escapes at the last moment. And at that moment the wagon falls from the hill. And Spirit is lying on the ground, so he stands quickly, and runs away from the wagon that is falling toward him. And he keeps running down the hill while the wagon behind him is about to crush him, and the workers run away not knowing what to do, until the wagon crashes into the train and causes a huge explosion that creates a massive fire in the place, and Spirit runs away at full speed and passes by the soldiers and stops looking at the place while it explodes completely. The fires spread through the forest, and Spirit runs at full speed while flames surround him from everywhere and consume everything ahead of them. And he keeps looking right and left searching for any way out until he finds a fallen tree trunk that he might escape past. So he immediately runs toward it and jumps over it. But unfortunately the chain gets stuck in the trunk and Spirit falls to the ground unable to move while the fire approaches closer and closer. At that moment Little Creek arrives and breaks the tree trunk freeing Spirit, and quickly helps him stand from the ground. And the two of them escape from the flames behind them, and jump from the hill and fall into the water. On the next day Spirit wakes up on the shore and finds a pile of apples beside him while Little Creek stands near the water. So Spirit becomes very happy to see him again and walks toward him while he drinks from the river and splashes him into the water. And he jumps into the water with him, and the two of them play together. And they keep running after each other while Spirit is happy playing with Little Creek, and Little Creek is also happy to see Spirit again. But at that moment they hear the sound of soldiers near them, and the commander sees them from a distance and fires his gun at them. So Spirit runs away but Little Creek is hit by a bullet and cannot run. So Spirit quickly returns to him and lifts him. And for the first time Little Creek rides on Spirit's back and cannot believe that he is finally riding him. But the happiness does not last because the soldiers chase them and fire their guns at them. So Spirit runs with him quickly and enters a rocky plateau area while the soldiers spread out to catch them. So Little Creek grabs a branch from a tree and manages to knock down one soldier and free the horse. But another soldier continues chasing them, until they reach a barrier that Little Creek manages to cross. But when the soldier reaches it the horse he is riding crashes into it, and throws him to the ground. and Spirit continues escaping until he reaches a cliff he almost falls from. So with all his strength he stops himself before falling and turns aside. And he continues escaping while one of the soldiers catches up with them. And the soldier pushes Little Creek trying to make him fall, but Little Creek regains balance at the last moment, and jumps onto Spirit's back, and kicks the soldier knocking him to the ground. And the two of them continue escaping until they reach the edge. The soldiers arrive behind them with the commander, but they cannot see them, so they look upward and find them standing on the plateau. When Spirit and Little Creek reach the top they find no way out ahead of them. So Spirit tries to go down but the soldier fires his gun at them and Spirit steps back. At that moment Spirit finds no choice except to jump to the other cliff, and Little Creek says it is impossible to reach there. But Spirit's eyes are full of determination, and he is sure he can make it. So he closes his eyes and opens them again and runs forward with all his speed, while Little Creek rides on his back, and when he reaches the edge he leaps with all his strength toward the opposite side. An unbelievable legendary jump, and the soldiers below cannot believe what they are seeing. How can this horse fly like that in the sky? And Spirit reaches the other side, and falls to the ground with Little Creek. When they stand up they are shocked to see the soldiers standing in front of them on the other side. So a soldier raises his rifle to kill them, but suddenly the commander stops him and makes him lower his rifle, and Spirit and Little Creek cannot believe what they are seeing. So the commander nods his head greeting Spirit and Spirit also greets the commander. And the commander withdraws with his soldiers leaving Spirit and Little Creek. At that moment Spirit and Little Creek jump with joy unable to believe that they survived this miracle. So Spirit signals to Little Creek to climb onto his back, and immediately he rides him and Spirit runs with him at full speed. They continue running to return to their homeland and Little Creek is very happy with Spirit. And when they reach the Native American tents Little Creek gets down and calls for Rain. So Rain comes and becomes very happy when she sees Spirit again. And Spirit is also happy, and runs toward her joyfully. And the two of them celebrate seeing each other again after everything that happened. So Little Creek walks toward them happily and goes to Rain to say goodbye for the last time and frees her so she can go with Spirit. And he tells her that he will never forget her. And Rain also says goodbye to him for the last time. Then he goes to Spirit and tells him please take good care of her. So Spirit embraces him for the last time while Little Creek is very sad that he will not see them again. The two of them run away together, while Little Creek waves goodbye to them as they leave, and Spirit cannot believe that he is finally free again. So he jumps into the air to say goodbye to Little Creek and Spirit runs with Rain to return to his homeland. They keep running together happily until they reach the Green Plains. And Spirit sees his eagle friend flying in the sky, and realizes that he has finally returned to the herd. So he runs quickly toward them happily because he has returned to them again, and his mother comes to him happily welcoming his return after a very long absence, and he did not return alone, he returned with Rain.